Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're the Content Bacon team, and today we're going to have a webinar about creating more views for your content. My name is Dave Custon. I'm one of the founders of Content Bacon. I'm here with my partner, Wendy.
Hi, everyone.
And just a quick note about us and our company. We're on a mission to make it easy for companies to create, distribute, and promote tasty custom content for their business. Content marketing is a really important activity or tactic for your business. It creates more opportunities, improved SEO, and better brand positioning.
So this is part of a series that we've been doing, but not to worry. Each of these webinars stand on their own, but they also build off of each other. So for those of you who've attended the previous two, welcome back. And we're going to lightly touch on some of those things as we go through the content today. And for those of you just joining us for the first time, welcome. And you can view any of our previous webinars, which we've done over the past few months, by going to our website and clicking on our events page. And then also just to note, our next webinar, which again will just build on everything we've done, is coming up on Thursday, November 19th at 2 p.m. And we'll be talking more specifically about conversion strategies. So in terms of today, as Dave mentioned, we're really going to be focused on how to get more views for your content. And so some of what you can expect to get out of today is determining how to make sure your content's being viewed by your target customers, what tools you can use to circulate your content, and then how to get other bloggers and industry professionals to share your content.
And while we're going through these slides, I'd like for all of you out there to think about some questions, think about some of these concepts as they relate to your business now. And if you're doing them, if you're not doing them, how perhaps you could be doing them differently or better.
So you've got a blog, you've been investing in writing your blog, posting your blog. So now what? We know that businesses that blog regularly get 55 more visitors to their website and they get more leads. And we certainly can attest to that, since we've been consistently doing our blog, as well as a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, promoting it, we see a huge increase in our inbound leads. So our goal today is to share our experience on what we're doing and how we do it, so you can take that and start to do it with your own content. So the first 7 things that we're going to be touching on are what we're calling phase 1. And I refer to this as the low-hanging fruit. This is stuff that you can easily do. And for many of you, if you're not doing this, the first things that we're going to be touching upon are going to get you tremendous results. And it could be all you need to do for the next 8 to 12 to 16 months. And then the second part of this presentation, we're going to go into some additional things, a little bit more, sophisticated things that you can be doing that those of you who aren't even doing the basics first can look forward to, but those of you who are doing the basics, it'll give you more insight into additional things you can do. So first and foremost, when you have a blog that you're contributing to frequently, you should make sure you're featuring it prominently on your website homepage, and your interior pages. And featuring it on your homepage is important for a couple reasons. Many people view their website as it's kind of like an online sales brochure. And if you have a visitor that comes to it to check you out, it doesn't necessarily give them a reason to come back. So by having your blog featured prominently on your homepage, one, it shows your visitors that you're current, that you've got stuff going on because you're contributing to it regularly. And because your content is geared toward them, it's not about you. It's solving problems, it's entertaining, it's providing resources. It gives people a reason to come back. And we're just showing you 2 simple examples of of website homepages where the blog is being featured on the homepage. And then you also want to feature it throughout your interior pages so that no matter where people are at on your site, they can see some of your recent posts.
So hopefully you have a blog on your site. Hopefully you have blog content featured prominently on the homepage and interior pages. And the purpose for that is to get people engaged. Engagement pre-sale, engagement before they speak to anyone is a really great way to leverage your content. But beyond that, we want to keep people engaged over a period of time. So it's really important to have a strong opt-in. Another word for that is a lead hook. Another word might be gated content. But it's really important to have a really strong opt-in. And the way to have a strong opt-in is to give visitors a really good reason to want to opt in. So if your content is not focused on them and focused on you, don't be surprised if people don't sign up.
But conversely, if people like your content, they're going to want to make sure that they're on your list to receive it. So I'm sure many of you out there get plenty of emails from companies that you've opted into because you want to know, you want to be one of the first to know when they publish new content. And that's what we're trying to create here. So making sure that it's prominent on your website and then making sure you have a strong opt-in are two easy things that you can control that can help you grow your database and build your community. And then again, we've touched upon a lot of these in our first two webinars, but sharing your content, your own unique content on your social media channels, and keep sharing. So after you post a blog, make sure that you promote it, publish it, share it on your Facebook, on your LinkedIn, on your Twitter, on all the various social media channels that you use. But then it's not a one and done type of deal. After you share it, you should continue sharing it. So a piece of content that you write today, you can share it a week from now, a month from now, 6 months from now, 2 years from now. I mean, we still get plenty of traffic and comments and feedback from blogs that we wrote over a year ago. And that's the beauty of building these assets, is that they work for you on an ongoing basis. So as you build a library of content, it also just gives you so much more to share on your various social media channels.
Most of our traffic to our website comes from content on our blog that is many, many months old. So don't ever think that content, we use the term evergreen. Evergreen content is always out there working for you, working for your message and your positioning.
And it's also like, if you find that a topic that you wrote about is getting really a lot of traffic, a lot of comments, that could be a good cue for you to write additional content on that theme that then you can link back to that previous post. So it just gives you, as you get into this, and we talked about this in webinar 2, how to create content your customers crave. And one of the things we talked a lot about is how do you come up with those topics? Once you start doing this more and more, it becomes easier because you start to get feedback from your audience on what's really resonating with them, which then you can do more of. So then the next thing that you can do after you're sharing it on your social media. So there might be many of you out there that have been consistently sharing to your LinkedIn, your Facebook, and your Twitter, which those tend to be the top 3 social media channels for most businesses. But you can then expand on that, and you can take your social media platform to the next level, and you can take blogs that you did and repurpose them for Pinterest or for Instagram. And that lets you build out your audience and reach people that may not be on those other channels. So again, that's a really easy way to take your social media to the next level and get more views for your content, is just by expanding your social media reach. And when we talked about in our first webinar, building your strong foundation, we made a point to say, don't get overwhelmed by social media. Don't feel like from day one you need to be on every social media channel that's out there, because it can be overwhelming. Start with 2, start with 3, and really get consistent, dominate those. But then as you do that, and you've been doing it for a while, it's natural then to begin to expand that. And it is a completely different audience that might be on Instagram, might be on WhatsApp, might be on different social media channels that now you're ready to expand into. And then another very easy but often overlooked tactic is to add social sharing buttons to your content. So by adding those to your content, as people read them, if they enjoy them or feel like someone else in their circle of influence might benefit, it's super easy for them to then share that, which gives you more exposure. And this is, again, it's a super important, super powerful, but often overlooked tactic that you can use to get more views for your content. And that's just to get your team involved. Whether you have 5 employees or 500, that they are a powerful asset. They each have communities. And by getting them involved, it can give your content just exponential power. So they should be sharing, liking, commenting on your post. They should have a link to your blog on their signature line. And we always talk about the reason that we believe content is so powerful is because it creates the opportunities for more conversations. So as you're creating content, your employees, your sales team, your marketing team, as they see what content's being created, they may have a prospect that they think, wow, this would be really useful for them. That's a perfect opportunity to use your content to open up conversations and to share it with potential clients, current clients that maybe you haven't heard from in a while, and ask them like, hey, what do you think? Thought you might be interested in this. Let me know if you have anything to add. And if they do have something to add, that gives you a perfect opportunity to update the blog maybe with some additional information and give them a shout out, which we'll talk about as a tactic in phase 2.
So a lot of what we advocate for is, as Wendy said, is posting content in multiple locations. It increases the size of your footprint, and one of those areas is on LinkedIn and in LinkedIn groups. And I'm going to ask Wendy to just talk a little bit about how or why it's important to respond in LinkedIn groups, how or why it's important to have your content distributed on LinkedIn in addition to, if it's an appropriate platform for you, of course, but in addition to other social media platforms. So why, Wendy, why are these groups important or valuable on LinkedIn?
Well, you can see here, this is a group on crowdsourcing and crowdfunding that has over 35,000 members. And if you go into LinkedIn, I don't care what industry you're in, you can find a group that specifically focuses on your niche. And we're using LinkedIn as an example, but Google Hangout also has the same thing. There's also other forums out there for specific areas. We do, a lot of work for some different cloud solution providers, and there's a social media network called Spiceworks that's specific for that target audience. And so these groups are where people go to seek out, the top information, to seek out subject matter experts. And what you don't want to do is just go in these groups and just post your content and then be done with it. Like Dave said, it's really important to be involved in the conversation. You may go in and just peruse what people are discussing, and maybe one of your blog posts answers the question or answers the discussion. So it's not something where you just want to be posting. You don't want to do it like as, just automatically, like, okay, after I post a blog, I'm going to go in and post in these 10 groups. You actually want to get engaged, see what the conversations are about, and see where it's appropriate. But then once you do, you can post your content, you can ask for feedback, and people will get involved in the conversation. And over time, that makes a big difference. People will come back to your blog. They'll be like, oh, this company really puts out great information. This person really puts out great information. And we've seen, with many of our clients where we handle this for them, where over time that's really created a nice following for them and positioned them as an expert in that area and led to additional conversations.
And so it's important to not spam in there. Right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you don't want to spam anywhere, but these groups, you shouldn't just look at as another venue to post content. You want to do it in a very thoughtful, you want to provide value. You want to make sure that when you're doing it, it's addressing an issue, that you're not just putting it out there.
Okay, great. Part of phase 1 here is also to send out your content to your database on a weekly, bi-monthly, or monthly routine with an email update. And I think once upon a time, the email newsletter, and maybe even for a lot of companies out there still, is viewed as a promotional platform. And sometimes it's certainly appropriate, but many other times it's great to continue to send out your content to inform and stay top of mind. And there's business to be had from those email newsletters, and they need not be promotional to acquire business. From one of our past webinars, there's a statistic that is pretty overwhelming that says how much business comes for certain companies from email marketing still.
Yeah, I think a lot of people might, because more than likely, your inbox might be overcrowded with emails that you never have a chance to read. So you might relate to email similarly, like, oh, who wants another email? But again, I bet you there's emails that you've opted into that you keep in your mailbox, and maybe you segment time to read during the week because it pertains to you. So, I personally might not be interested in getting a newsletter on, recent trends in medical malpractice insurance, but, my friend that's the doctor, who has issues in that area, that's something that he's really interested in and wants to make sure he's looking at on a weekly basis. And emails, more like Dave was saying, more people use email. It's like 3 times more than social media. So even though social media is huge and growing, and just think about it, there's 1 billion people on Facebook, people still use email a lot more than they use social media. So it's such a viable channel to get your information out there, and especially when your information is targeted and you do it consistently so your database stays nice and fresh and updated. It becomes a great way to stay top of mind, and again, will lead to business, will lead to more conversations, will lead to more opportunities for you. The last part of phase 1 is to make sure that your blogs are optimized for SEO performance. And basically what that means is you just want to understand what keywords or key phrases are important in your industry. If someone were searching for content that you're putting out there, have you optimized it correctly? So what we always say, we write for people, not for the Google bots, not for search engines. But it's really important to structure your content so that it is optimized and has the right, keyword in the heading, subhead within the content, but in a way that works for the content. So this is a simple example of an article we posted on behalf of one of our clients like 2 weeks ago. And it's a topic that, again, many of you may never search for because it's not interesting to you. But for this industry, why Sway won't replace PowerPoint. This is kind of a big thing going on in the Microsoft world and the Office 365 world today. We posted it less than 2 weeks ago, and it's already showing up in the number 2 spot in Google. So that shows that when you optimize a blog correctly, you can make sure you get found.
So it's not just enough, Wendy, to write the article and put it on your website. There's more to be done beyond just posting, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's, again, part of the process as you're developing your content strategy is to understand what keywords, what key phrases are really important for you to own so that when you create content, you're using those. And then when you actually write the content and upload it to your blog, you structure it correctly. I mean, we use a tool called SEO Yoast, which helps us determine if the blog has been optimized correctly. We go in and spot check our blogs every so often to see, are they performing? And again, this is another, it may be that a blog you posted 6 months ago, you go and you search for it and it's not showing up. And that might just be an indicator, okay, maybe the phrase that you chose isn't the right phrase, in which some simple tweaking, you can just redo that. And then all of a sudden that blog gets a fresh life and starts showing up. So that this is, again, a really simple but important tactic to your overall content strategy to help make sure you get more views for your content.
Okay, great. So now as we're going to transition into phase 2 here, I want to just remind everyone to think of some questions when we get to the end of the presentation, which we will address.
So phase 2, go back one, yeah, phase 2. Phase 2, as we mentioned, for many of you, if you're not doing everything in phase 1, my suggestion would be stick to those. Get educated on what we're talking about here, but stick to phase 1 before you move on, because so many benefits can be gained from that. And then once you really have all of that in place, then you can start looking at phase 2. And one of the things we realized as we were putting this webinar together is we included too much information. So we're going to address 9 ways, but it's really too much and we don't want to overwhelm you. So we actually created a resource sheet. So we're going to kind of highlight some of the things in phase 2 But if you email us, we're going to send you the resource sheet that goes into more detail, and we're actually going to record another webinar to go into more detail, because as you see, when we get into this, some of this can get pretty complex, and we just don't want to overwhelm you, or we want you to really just have one or two key takeaways that you start implementing from this webinar. So the first thing is to get high quality backlinks. And a backlink is basically just that. It's your site link, your blog site link, your URL that someone else posts on some other website, social media, white paper, or some other piece of digital property that because it's on another high quality source. The search engines view that as really important. So the more high quality backlinks you get, the more prominent your content starts to be perceived in the search engines' minds. So it's really, this is a really important feature. And it's also the reason why we say high quality backlinks is because there was a time not too long ago where it used to be really easy to get backlinks. You could just pay and you'd get tons of backlinks, but they were very low quality, and Google started punishing companies that were doing that. And so now it's super important that you focus on high quality backlinks. So just go back to the previous slide so I could just highlight. So a couple examples here are, well, there's probably organizations that you're involved in already that if you shared your content with them, they would be more than happy to promote it on their social media or even on their website. Also, when you do press releases, when you distribute them on sources like PR Web, we just did a press release for one of our clients on PR Web, those are really high quality backlinks. If you're part of the Better Business Bureau or other organizations, those are really high quality backlinks. So those are just examples of using what you've already got and maybe making a list and determining to make sure that you're showing up on those, and that those organizations that you're a member of are including your backlinks on their sites, on their social media. And then kind of part two of that is after you make sure that the people in your own, I guess one other thing to mention is another simple thing to do is when you publish a post, send it out to some of your peers that have a circle of influence and ask them to share it. That's a super easy thing to do, and people will gladly do that, especially if you reciprocate and do the same. So that's another easy way to get some high quality backlinks. But then moving on from that, you can do some searches to find out who writes about your subject matter. And I use a couple resources. We covered this in webinar 2, and we'll put this in the resource guide that if you email us, we're going to send you. But I use a resource called BuzzSumo, and it's free. You can put in the subject matters that you want to write about or that you have been writing about, and you can search by time frame, people who have written about this in the last day, in the last week, in the last year. And you can, again, start to build a list of people who write about your industry, and you can reach out to them and promote your blogs to them that way. And again, people love sharing other information. That's a great way to do it. Another easy way to get other people to promote your content is to tag them or include them in your posts and in your social media. So if you're writing content on, we were talking about a topic the other day, sealers, for commercial restaurants. So floor sealers for commercial restaurants. And maybe you highlight some products in that post. You want to tag those companies that you're highlighting. And then when you promote it on your social media, you want to tag them there as well. And then you want to let them know. So we've included this script here of what you would actually say, that you could then reach out to them and say, hey, just wanted to let you know, we recently included you in one of our posts. Thanks for providing this valuable service. We'd love it if you shared it. And here's a simple tweet that you can send out, to your audience. So again, makes it really, really simple, but it's a great way to get others to promote your content because you're promoting them in your content. So why wouldn't they want to do that?
And one of the keys here is to make sure that it's not entirely self-serving to yourself, and it's not so self-promotional. Certainly there can be a little bit of chest beating, but if you're providing value to your customers and you're being fair, so to speak, in what you're saying about yourself and the other company, companies are happy to also send things out.
Yeah, it's a great, and it's an easy tactic. Again, it's time consuming. That's why, as we go through these, don't feel like you have to do all of them. Pick one and, do it for a while before you add the next one on. Another thing you can do is submit your blog to blog listings. And there are a number of established communities where you can submit your blog to. And we're highlighting 3 here, but there's actually hundreds of them. And again, that could be, someone on your team, that could be part of the process, that every time you write a blog, you submit it, or as you submit it to these blogs, they start to know about you. But it's a great place where bloggers can submit their new blog post and others start to see it, and it just gets you more eyeballs on your blog, which then, again, if you have a good opt-in, those people will opt in and now they're on your database. So these are great ways to get more audience for your blog, but it takes the discipline to do it. And like I said, we're highlighting 3 that we really like, but there's literally hundreds of them, and we'll include more of them in our resource sheet that we provide to you.
Hopefully, you're beginning to see how many parts of the process or how many layers there are to really effective content marketing. It's not just enough to write an article and post it on your blog. There's many steps and processes to follow for it to be really truly effective and to dominate the page, as we say.
And this is kind of where we realize, wow, we're giving a lot of information and we just don't want to overwhelm people. So 5 through 8, we're going to record a separate webinar because there's very specific ways to do each of these. So one is offer to do guest posts for industry blogs. It's a great way to build traffic to your site. It could be a trade magazine, it could be, an association magazine, digital website. There's a lot of different platforms out there, and they're always looking for content. And so offering to do some guest posts is a great way to build traffic to your site. And we have the specific scripts that we can provide you on how to do that. Resource pages. There's, a lot of again, whether it's trade magazines that will put together resource roundups, and if you reach out to them, you can get your blog mentioned as a resource for that specific area. And again, there's specific ways you can search for resource pages for your industry in Google, so you know exactly how to do it. You can also pay for traffic. You can sponsor post. I don't know if any of you have tried sponsoring a post on Facebook or LinkedIn, but that can be a very effective way to go after your target audience. You can also syndicate your best blog posts. There's several different syndication sources. Outbrain is one of them, where you can get your blogs out there by paying and get more eyeballs, bring more people back to your site, and hopefully convert some of that traffic. You can also ask for reviews. There are a number of sites that will allow you to submit your blog for review, especially if you have a product that you want people to review. Again, there's a whole list that you can send out to, and we have the specific script that you can use, the specific way to search for those that do reviews, so that you can use that as a tactic to get more traffic for your blog.
So another great way to get more traffic is to repurpose content. We mentioned before that content often is evergreen. There is no expiration on it. So one of the things that we've done here is, for one of our customers, we took some of their blog content and that turned into a case study. Is that right?
Case study, yep.
Okay. And then we took that case study and we turned it into a video, which is the screenshot you see there on the right. And so if you think about blog content became case study, became video, one element, if you will, really turned into 3 elements, and they're able to use them in 3 completely different ways. Blog content is obviously residing on your blog. A case study or a download is some of that gated content that we talked about. And then a video is a video, which could be posted not only on your site, social media channels, but also on YouTube, which So many people overlook YouTube. 20%, maybe a little bit more, of all web traffic and all web searches take place on YouTube. So it's a much overlooked opportunity. But like everything else we're talking about here, you have to leverage it correctly. Your videos have to be optimized properly to really take advantage of it.
Yeah. So in the example of the case study here, they're having content on a blog is great, but then some people like maybe the weightiness of what might feel like a white paper or an ebook. And it can be as simple as maybe taking a few of your blog posts that you've done on a particular theme. A lot of times as we're creating content calendars for our clients and for ourselves, we think about it in terms of themes, and we build off that theme, because if someone's searching for, you know, content creation, blog writing, we want to make sure that we dominate that. So we're not just writing about it once and then being done with it. We're constantly writing about it. So if someone were searching, we have the opportunity to maybe show up 3-4 times on the first page of Google. But then if you turn it into an ebook, you put it, you get a designer, put a nice cover on it, maybe put some additional graphics in it, a table of content. Then, like Dave said, you can use it as what's called gated content, where someone has to give up some basic information in order to get that. And people are very willing to do that, especially if you don't start spamming them, but just provide them additional valuable content. And then turn it into a video. In this case, it's this particular example is a client of ours that we did an interview with one of their clients and created, kind of this case study testimonial out of it, turned that into this downloadable PDF, and then created a video out of it that then can be posted on YouTube, optimized on YouTube, which gives them the opportunity to really show up a lot of different ways depending on how someone would search for it. Plus, when you're sharing the information, you're sharing it different ways too. And some people like the written word, they like to go to your blog and just read it. Some people like the download, and some people like the video. So it gives your audience different ways to consume your content, which is really important. And you could take a blog and easily put it into a slide deck and share it on SlideShare. You could create an infograph out of it. You could also create a video graph out of the infograph. So all of these things can really just build off each other. And as you start to build a library of content, then it becomes so much easier then to go back and say, okay, how can we take what we've already done and take it to the next level? So whatever resources you're spending, whether it's your own time, whether it's an outsourced provider, you can really leverage that content because you have the opportunity to do all of these things with it. So again, something that you do today, you might be able to use it, when all is said and done, 10 different ways. And so however much you're paying for it, whether again it's your own time or someone else's, can really start to have a strong ROI.
Okay, here's a summary which we're not going to read to you. But as we mentioned earlier in the presentation, if you email us at founders@contentbacon.com, we will email you this checklist as well as some other items that we referenced.
Well, yeah, it's more than this checklist. Yeah. It's the actual how you do each. So, especially for phase 2, where it gets pretty specific, we're going to email you the scripts. We're going to email you how to search for resources. We're going to email you that list of blog listings to submit your blog to. So all of the meat, we're going to put in the one resource document. And then we're going to record another webinar that's going to go more into 5 through 9 to really show the detail, so that again you can do it yourself.
So we're going to give everyone a minute or two to send in some questions that we'll address live here.
Yeah, and I think while we're waiting on that, something we always try to encourage our audience to do is this can be very overwhelming. We were with a client this morning talking about this, and again, if you're busy running your business, all of this, it kind of sounds great in theory, but it's like who has the time to do it? Even if you say I'm going to devote 15 minutes to LinkedIn every week, it sounds doable, but sometimes it's just not. And we always we take this advice ourselves. What gets outsourced gets done. So yeah, if you can do it, if you have a team and you can do it, these are things that will have a huge impact on your business, will give you a way to stand out from the competition. But it's also better to get started and, do it bad first and then do it better. So that's always kind of our motto, is just get started. And if you're not doing the basics, do the basics. If you are doing the basics, pick one or two of these things in phase 2, start doing them and build on it. But it will make a difference, and you'll start to have more conversations, and you'll start to create leads from sources that you don't expect. Okay, so see, we have a question. Do I need a full-time employee for this stuff? So it could easily be a full-time job for someone. So yeah, if you have the resources and you can dedicate someone to this, it would be a great way to make sure that you're on top of this and that you've got someone who's focused on not only writing your content and owning your company voice, but then also promoting your content, because it doesn't make sense to spend a lot of resources on writing your content if no one sees it. So they go hand in hand. You have to promote your content in order to make sure that it's getting read. Okay, we have another question. What is a good frequency for guest blogging, both being a guest and having a guest? I think once a month. But even if it's once a quarter to start, that could be a great starting point. So if you're not doing any guest blogging now and you haven't had anyone do guest blogging for you, you might start out with the goal of seeing, okay, let's see if we can have someone, us do it once a quarter for someone and have someone do it for us once a quarter, and then build from there. Get a rapport with someone. And if it works out and you work well together and the type of content that you're sharing is really valuable, then amp it up. And I would say no more than once a month, because I think you want at least to have a guest blog on your blog. I mean, if you can do more guest blogs for other people and have them be in multiple distribution channels and you've got the resources, I would do it as often as you can, but I wouldn't have it take away from your own unique content. I mean, you could put together too, within organizations, you could put together your content calendar where, if you wanted to have it more, where maybe 4 times a month is your own unique content and 4 times a month are guest bloggers. So that way you can kind of take your frequency from one level to the next level, which can also be a huge difference. We didn't touch upon that here, but another way to generate more traffic, especially if you're doing the basic right, is just to amp up the level of content. So if you're doing 1 a week, do 2 a week, do 3 a week, because that'll just continue to build your audience. And so using guest bloggers as a way to increase your frequency is a great tactic.
So the next question there's 2. We're going to combine these. And one question is, we boost a lot of our posts on Facebook to get attention to our post. Do you like the idea of boosting? So that's kind of part 1. And then part 2 is, which I'm just going to add to this because we get this question quite a bit, is, Wendy, I'm going to ask you to answer that question, but also add to that, talk a little bit about budgets for advertising on some of the social media platforms. Where do you start? How do you know if it's enough? How do you know if it's too much?
Right.
Just talk about all that a little bit combined.
So, Facebook and some of the other social media platforms are a great, they have these really easy ways to spend some dollars to get more eyeballs for your post. And I do think it's a great idea if you target your boost. So you don't want to just boost it to everyone. You really have to understand who your customer avatar is. And we talked about this a lot in our webinar too. And make sure that when you're boosting the post that you've built an audience that you're boosting it to, so that you're not just, being very general and boosting it to, a geography or too broad of a group. And then you also want to make sure that where you're sending them, again, has that strong opt-in and has a way for them to take it to the next level with you. Because the idea of just boosting it and having them come to your site and then not seeing that convert at all is, over time, you're probably not going to be too thrilled with that. So I think really making sure that you build an audience. And what's great about really all of these social media networks, but Facebook does an incredible job. You can build lookalike audiences. If you can put code on your website to track who's coming to your website, and then you can use that to build the right audience. So there's a lot of analytics you can use to make sure that the audience that you are targeting is the right audience. And you can start out boosting posts for, $5, $10. I mean, it doesn't have to be a huge amount of budget to get started, but the key is making sure you're boosting it to the right audience.
Okay, one last question we're going to take here is, what is your take on a team blogging strategy? I'm going to give a little bit of an answer, and then I'll let Wendy talk too. But I think there's a little bit of danger in it, in that it's possible that no one owns the process or no one owns the task, and then it just never gets done. So that's kind of part of my answer. But the other part is assuming you can make sure that it's implemented and someone owns it and it happens on a regular basis. I think it's fantastic, provided the team is sort of representative of the right parts of your business. If we have, let's just be sort of arbitrary here for a second. If we have customer service folks, we have sales folks, we have implementation folks, and all of them are contributing content that is addressing the customer's issues and how the customer engages with the company, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I glossed over this when I talked about optimizing your blog for keywords. You should also optimize your blog for categories. So when you think about your blog, you should think about the different types of categories you want to rate for. And you may have, and you probably do, have different types of customers, which those customers each represent maybe different categories you would rate for. So for instance, one of our clients is a recruiting client. So we rate for the candidates, but we also rate for the hiring leadership. And those are two completely different types of blogs. And then within those, there's additional categories like, assessments and interview techniques. So I think that if you think about your audience first and then the categories, then implementing a team approach could really make sense, because maybe the person who should write for hiring authorities has completely different expertise than the person who's really close to the candidates and wants to write blogs about what questions the candidates are really interested in. So I think it goes back to your strategy and your content calendar and making sure that you think about those things. But then, like Dave said, I think that a team approach is awesome. But at the end of the day, like, who's ultimately responsible? Because you don't want fingers pointing and one person thinks they're doing it and they think the other person is doing it. Just make sure someone within the organization owns it, and then maybe they assign the topics out to different people within the organization. I've seen it work really well. I've seen it work horrendously.
Okay, awesome, great. Thank you for all those questions. They were excellent questions. And we may have one last one here.
No, I think it's just people saying thank you.
Okay. So just to put a bow around this presentation, a little bit more about us. We're a content marketing service, and we are a turnkey service. We help our customers always stay top of mind with their customers and prospects with fresh, relevant, original content that is distributed through what we call their online footprint. We make it really easy for customers to engage with us, and we become a part of their brand, and they over time they can't understand how they live without us, which is sort of like bacon.
Exactly. So we always like to offer, we would love the chance to talk with you, to go through kind of what your current content strategy is. I mean, Dave and I love helping companies. Our goal is to educate you as much as possible so you can do this on your own, or if you decide you can't, that you can outsource it to the appropriate people, hopefully us. But with that in mind, we would love to do a free content review and content plan with you. So if you email us or call us and just let us know, hey, I'm interested in doing this, we will gladly spend time with you, educating you. No sales pitch, just pure value for you. And we would love nothing more than to spend time with you doing that. So that's our offer to you. We hope you take us up on it. And our next webinar, like we mentioned, is November 19th, and conversion strategies for content. And like we said, this webinar, we'll send you a recording. We're also going to record a second part of this to go into the more nitty gritty of 5 through 9 on phase 2. And again, thank you so much for joining.